Hello everyone and welcome back to another weekly altered video. We're back with Singleton, this time Moyo and Silk at the suggestion of the YouTube comments. Plus, people really seem to like this hero. A couple of things have gone wrong. By the time I've started recording this, one of the cards that we played with actually got banned, so I had to redo the introduction. Celebration Day. Big sad. Don't think we get to see it in the video now because I'm recording this one after the games are recorded. But let's go through. Back on the regular client for looking at the deck list for Singleton. But I think I want to use Singleton as an opportunity to try out cards that I wouldn't have otherwise in the standard archetypes. Obviously, bigger deck, less spots for cards that you want to play, so you have the opportunity to see where cards may or may not fit with a less opportunity cost. And we're going to go through. Just going to talk about those ones in particular. Moyo is another one of the heroes that gets 5 uniques, so from the perspective of Equinox, one of the worst heroes in this list, needs the help. But yeah, we'll work our way through. Leviathan Spotter, Studious Acolyte and Sunissa are all interesting ones that I wanted to try out here. With Leviathan Spotter, opportunity to draw a card, but when you reveal a spell of hand cost 4 or more, so we have about 20 hits for that in hand, so we'll see if that can draw us a card at any point in the game. And Studious Acolyte, I think the rare version is largely worse than the common because it only activates on your 7 drops or higher. It does pay for itself on the turn it comes down from hand if you are able to follow up with one of those spells. So it is technically better to play if you're gearing towards that, but I think being able to reduce to 2 4-drops in a turn is better, but we'll see if that one comes up. And Sunissa, so obviously Moyo is incentivized to play a lot of spells, a lot of big spells, which means you don't always have opportunities to advance, and you don't always have opportunities to put a lot of stats on board for relatively cheap. That being said, I think this would fit pretty well if your expeditions are ever behind. She just advances as a stat positive creature, and because you're inherently more powerful on the hero side, we might get an opportunity to see that. Couple others as well. Looking at a couple of spots for discard. Draw should be, in theory, a little bit less prevalent in Singleton as well. So the idea of cutting down your opponent's spells that they can cast from hand might be more impactful. And I thought I'd try out Aurora as well. So discarding a spell from reserve to gain 2 boosts, 4 mana for a 5/5/5, pretty good. Because there are at points going to be spells that you don't want to play, and then the cost reduction also good. We've done our generic thing of trying to fit as much removal into the package as possible, but in terms of notable spells that I want to try, I've spoken about them before. Celebration Day, even though it's banned. Sakuraba's Fury are the second and third placed spells that I wanted to play in these lists when they were legal, but because we have more slots and more slots for big spells, we're trying a few others out as well. Celestial Blast might win us an expedition, and we're trying out Defect as well. Could be a big mana swing if our opponent dumps something big out. And then Mana Flare, so this is one I was interested to see if it was useful. pay 4 mana, play a spell for 5 less. So this plus Celebration Day or Winter Nova would be a 7 mana turn, so you can get them down a turn early, which is interesting. Gives you the opportunity to draw the card and make the token because you've played both at once and you haven't had to activate Moyo by the time Mana Flare resolves. And then everything else is pretty straightforward. Kind of splitting the difference between the... I'm not so heavy into it that it would be the prison elements, but the control and the tempo elements, I guess, and we'll see which ones serve us a little bit better. But yeah, let's dive in. This is going to be Milk Drops with Moyo and Silk. See you in Game 1. Welcome back to Singleton. Game 1, Milk Drops, Moyo and Silk. Let's see how we go. A lot to test with this hero. Somebody actually came up and they were like, hey, what do I do with Moyo and Silk? So I was already planning this one. Rejigged it a little bit just to test out a bunch of random cards. And yeah, let's see what this hand results in. Can't keep everything. We're going first, so in a little bit of struggle street. But we are likely to keep Suha, because that is our turn 1 play. And then we've got some options. So we could play very slow, keep the Alchemist, bring Suha back, and then hope to get a 2-drop. Or we could play Conjuring Seal, just, lock in one of those Mana Moth tokens. So we could do it like this, which would be Suha turn 1, Alchemist turn 2, Suha and Baba Yaga turn 3, getting rid of the Alchemist, drawing a card. I do like the idea of that. Scholar's Vault's kind of cool too. Could have kept that instead of the Baba Yaga, but looking at cards is cool. Freeze and Conjuring Seal also have claims for them, so this hand is sneakily good. Alright, we're not going to bounce the Suha. Sabotage, locking our opponent's hand down, keeping their options to a minimum. Kind of a cool idea, but also they can play around it, because with the rare, to go to reserve from the Expedition Zone. So that would be a turn 1 and a turn 3 play. And we wouldn't have got to do it anyway. Alright, so they have a 1-drop. Nailed it. We're ahead. Win. Stop the count. Alright, Sunissa, not fantastic here. Taking a 1 for nothing on turn 1 means that she will not be able to advance. And we can either play Spotter Baba Yaga out, or the Conjuring Seal. So I think, depending on what they want to play here, we're very weak in brown. Play out the Spotter though, gives us something to do next turn. Actually a couple things to do, which is interesting. So we can either lock in our gains with the Spotter, or we can Conjuring Seal. Conjuring Seal loses to Will-O-Wisp. actually Conjuring Seal and Disciple still lose to Will o' the Wisp, so probably not doing that this turn. Our opponents decided not to utilize their map marker tokens, which I think is good for us. Although they did see the Leviathan spotter, so we could be walking into something juicy here. I have to refresh here because with the way Board Game Arena handles Leviathan spotters, it actually makes the card disappear from your hand. Dropping out the Studious Disciples here. Winter Outfits means that their Will-o'-Wisp actually beats our Leviathan spotter. So if they choose to play that one out, we can still block with the Caladrius, but they decide not to do that. Just putting it on the side that makes the most sense is fine with us. And what 1 mana 3 stats are in the game? I don't think there are any. They could still play out a 1-drop here, but we get away with it. A little bit greedy. If we'd played the Caladrius out, we could have locked that one up from like Martingales or something like that. Alright, couple of big spells here, something to plan towards. I think we consolidate a little bit here. Alright, and a Serengar is in play too. 3/2/2. Can't have a second copy of rare Winter Outfits. Love that for us. And we'll make our Mana Moth and see what they wish to do. Alright, we can either draw with the Magical Training, or we can draw and advance with the Baba Yaga. So I found a good spot for that one. If they try to keep the Winter Outfits around, now we've actually got a tiny little blowout with the license withdrawal. Also, we'll be hitting the Serengar this turn, so that's a good pickup. I think we've got some options here. Magical Training into Baba Yaga might be sweet. A lot of brown presenting on the field now. Okay, Moth Collision's a funny one. So I don't run this in constructed Moyo. We are allowed more than one because obviously you want to play it out once you've got an illusion, which makes it cheaper, and then when you cast it you get the other one. But here we've got the space, so we'll try and test it, but we just have to figure out what it is we're going to get rid of. Can't be the Hunger, because that's arguably one of the best cards in the deck still. Defect is our only 7-drop that plays with Acolyte. I think it's going to be Evanescence. If we're going to play a removal spell here, it's likely going to be the License Withdrawal. So we'll test and see. 7 mana, a lot of small things to play. Might use their... See, that's interesting, because that's strong for our Baba Yaga. I would have thought a brown might have been a good one. We'll train magically. Lost in the Riptide hits nothing on their side this turn. But if they advance here, it'll be good. Telegraphing that they want to put the winter outfits in with the Serengar. We could play into it, Baba Yaga, License Withdrawal, the Serengar away. Or the winter outfits would actually be a pretty good hit there as well. I think we might be okay trading like that. But we can... we can make that choice when we come to it. Cycle through with another card. Celebration Day is a fun one. Draws a card, makes a moth. Moth doesn't matter. I've spoken about that a lot. And then we've got a choice here. So, no illusions. So we have to pay full value for our Moth Collision. If we want to use it, that's the last thing we can do. Play the Studious Acolyte out. We can trade 1 for 1 here. Either of their characters are targetable because they both have boosts, but I see this as an opportunity to get rid of the winter outfits. The fact that we're afforded the flexibility by being ahead, taking a 1 for 2 isn't bad because it just ties us up. We just hope that with more cards in hand and arguably a better late game, we can hope to get ahead that way. Eight mana means we could Acolyte Celebration Day here. And it is a 1 mana play. Non-committal, we'll play it out on the companion side so that if they drop a character there, we can still Lost in the Riptide it. Our companion expedition is ahead, so Suha doesn't get her extra card. But it still might be the go. Three mana. Yeah. I still have a lot of mana. I don't like that. That displeases me. So we can always Lost in the Riptide with the onto the Shiva here. Yeah, we'll see how Baku does, see what it hits. What do you get rid of, King? Or Queen? I've actually never noticed that Baku was an elephant. Lyra Navigator. Draw a card. Interesting. And there you go. We'll play out the Suha, put a little bit of pressure on them on the hero side. We know we can get rid of their Mage Dancer next turn. Didn't get any value out of the Acolyte. Ooh, common Incaster's cool there. I assume they'll choose their own trigger first. I think they want to protect the Mage Dancer here if given the choice. We'll get rid of the magical training. That's done enough work for him here. I still have high hopes. Moth Collision. Yeah. Moth Collision's probably the go here. Not playing 2 removal spells. Lost in the Riptide ends up cheaper off of the Rip, which is why we chose it. We could Acolyte reduce the cost Celebration Day, although I don't know how favourable that is for us. Not able to loop with the magical training is kind of cool. Flamel doesn't hit anything. Let's do it. For science. Celebration Day. We draw a card. You do whatever you want today. Vanishing Gate. Not it, Chief. Hoping for a magical training or something there. Or a disciple would have been cool. Alright, now what we want is another 1-drop. Didn't get it. Flamel isn't bouncing anything this game, so we'll just leave it. And I think what we're going to do this turn is we're going to play for a tiebreaker and try and blow him out with the hunger next turn. Alright, if they have removal in hand, playing out the Acolyte's going to be poor here. Okay, we're okay with that because the Sticky Shroom actually gets hit by Izmir's Signet. We've got heaps of mana to work with. Baku's okay here. Just a 2-mana 2/2/2. Does that count as a bear in this game? I don't know. Does in Magic. And then what can we do with our remaining mana? Riptide Hathor Signet uses up all of our mana, so we might be able to just win here. Got a decent hand, and then all we want to try and do the following turn is slow down how many turns we can to get the hunger out as late as possible and hit everything. 1 mana short of casting it now, and it wouldn't have fleeting, so it's not even a guaranteed win there by being able to make it gigantic. But we'll see. We're expecting the Mage Dancer out of them. Ooh, Riptide only costs 2 this turn. Does that change anything? I don't think Defect does it. They can advance if they ink caster on the other side. So I think we just play out the Hathor, stuff it, it's fine. We can actually banish in gate Riptide here, which is fun. They did get the sleep. And then 3 + 2. So we put the shroom out. And if they want a map maker's boon, we just hit whatever it targets with our signet or banishing gate. And I think we've got it locked up. Because if they target the Hathor, we advance 2 to 1. And we would advance 1 to 0 if they targeted the Mage Dancer. That was kind of a cool turn. I liked that. That was fun. Part of me was hoping that they'd just jam both Mapmaker's Boon onto the Shroom so we could defect it. Would have been really cool to keep around for the tiebreaker and then just murk it with the Hunger next turn anyway. 2, 3... There you go. Navigated that one. Nadir and Bubbles. Singleton, Nadir. I always forget which hero that actually is. So there you go. That was a good one. Alright, see you in game 2. And we're back for game 2. Moyo and Silk. First one went well. Jesus Christ. I've never actually seen the lists laid out like this before, and that is confronting. We're up against a Soul and Halua. So we got a bunch of stuff against that. Caladrius, obviously very good. Hits her thing. A lot of 2-drops here. I'm not a fan of the Acolyte when the only thing we've got is a Celestial Blast in hand. This hand is a little shonky. Baku. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, this doesn't go wrong as long as they don't have Tiny Jin specifically. Looking at this one as well, another hero to drop as a test. Singleton seems like a good place to try out a bunch of things for Soul and Halua. I'm going to lose our Caladrius here. Ain't too mad about that. It is removal for Halua later in the game, but we're not at the late stage of the game yet, I guess. I don't know. Generically good, unique here. Unless they have Helping Hand, they can't, or a Wii phase as well. Big shame we don't have a 1-drop in hand because I lost in the Riptide. Although putting the Spy back on top of their deck might be worse long run. Gonna hit him with the discard, ain't too mad about that. I've always loved this card. It's Never been up my alleyway to play, but the rare version, discarding 2 things, has always been kind of interesting to me. Maybe we should try and make it work a little bit more. Alright, colourful cuckoo. That ain't too bad. Lost in the Riptide actually hits colourful cuckoo here. Obviously doesn't go from reserve to the expedition zone with the boosts. So if we want to, we could Hathor Riptide. Well of Tears Riptide is interesting as well. Riptide means they get another shot at boosting their cuckoo up, but Helping Hand won't give them the boost that they need. And if they play Rage, it gives it fleeting anyway, so they don't get the ramp. So we're in a spot of some description here. I don't know if it's good or bad. If they just pass here and lock in their Halua token, dislike. Because of the Well of Tears, we can actually get the cuckoo back there. I don't like the idea of giving them more copies of Vanguard to cycle through this, even though it would successfully deal with the ramp the cuckoo would have or could have gotten. We'll just find another answer for that later. A lot of ways to actually remove fleeting here. You got 2 copies of Vanguard at least, 2 copies of Helping Hand, 2 copies of Awife is 6 out of 59. So 1/10 out of your deck can keep your stuff around. Gonna have to think about that for our list. Not exactly what we were looking for here. His hand is a little bit anemic. I actually don't really like the idea of getting rid of anything. Ada doesn't work. We've got no spells in our hand. Hathor and Undyne. A bit rough. I guess we'll keep the... I almost would have thought about just keeping nothing in. Sending nothing to mana this turn. Just playing out whatever we feel is important. So we'll try and get away with it this turn. Nothing to do with our Well of Tears. If they remove it, I guess we're not too upset. But yeah, surely there's a deck set up around Well of Tears Baku, right? The rare version would give it an extra boost when you play it. Probably giving up a 1 for 2 here. No sabotage. Vanguard would have been a good hit here. Or the spy itself, I suppose. Ah. Yeah, if they have a 1-drop, they get it. They might figure out, choosing to pass here actually just gets them an extra advance. It's a 1 for 2 anyway. Pass on that, we have nothing in hand. And we're behind. Not where we want to be. Did keep them off of getting their token again. So the first one they'll get is next turn. Reasonable shout. Ooh. Vanguard is dealt with. They've got 4 cards in hand to our 3. So now, with a 2/2/2 card split in our hand, we are most likely going to keep all of these. Pass the turn here. We'll see what we can get done. If they just duel have gridded away. Damn. Can't hit nothing. That's alright. Deck runs very differently if you don't draw a lot of spells that draw you cards, turns out. And they'll double advance and win. So that was a bit of a rough one. The other side of the coin to the first game, where we had a lot of options in hand, which we enjoyed. This one, not so much. That's alright. 1-1. GG. On to the next one. And we're back for round 3. 1-1. Time to figure out whether it was the first game or the second game that were the exception and not the rule. And we're up against Tsadi and Surge. So, is not drawing cards the fail case, or is drawing cards the fail case? Alright, we have to keep Ada. Playing second here. Just do it like this and play really, really slow. So we can Ada, Moth, Flamel, bounce Moth over our first 3 turns. Doesn't seem fantastic, but it's something to do. If they play a landmark turn 1, or permanent turn 1, just discard it with Ada. A little bit of a bonus. Alright, On the off chance they have the tiny Djinn, we'll play out here. Don't have it, love that for us. Still haven't hit a permanent, but it is important to have that in the deck. I don't know. Probably. Don't want to just get steamrolled by single card win cons like Grand Endeavor or something like that. Alright, we are going to get a lot of cards out of this Moth to a Spring. So make 2 mana moths. If they have the wherewithal to sabotage immediately, they can do that. Although I do really like the idea of doing the exact same cycle with Conjuring Seal instead. Bugger. It's alright. We're only going down 1. Salvageable. Ooh, Off You Go is pretty cool to bounce as well. So we could... Alright. Getting rid of the Conjuring Seal, drawing lots of cards, very appealing. We still sort of recreate it in the aggregate by getting heaps of Moth to a Springs out. Ooh. Alright. Actually have a valuable target for the Ada Lovelace here. Which is kind of cool. Alright, nothing to be done there. But we do get to use her ability. She is not just a 2/4/2 creature. We pass at dusk. Six mana is for Mel plus Off You Go, so we can pretty comfortably get rid of the Moth to a Spring here and still try and play 1 for 1. Rewarded. We get a Moth to a Flame. We can bounce the Off You Go to hand. If they play out Tengu and Warrior. Okay, they don't do that. Play around it successfully, that's fine, ain't mad. We'll just pass the turn. Okay, Moth to a Flame, mana moth in each thing, make a moth when you play it on this side as well. Counts as an additional 6 points worth of stats. 4 mana, ain't too bad, just don't get to pick where they go. Celestial Blast might be good in the following turn. But our hand is a little bit... how's your father? Do we have the space to play Well of Tears? Perhaps. We got rid of both our Banishing Gates in their opening hand, which kind of sucks. Alright, we'll keep the Off You Go, bounce it, reduce a cost. So in theory, we could get rid of the Well of Tears, I think. In theory, we could reduce the cost of the Celestial Blast. Can't play 2 Moth to a Flames here, but we can Moth to a Flame Off You Go. Make the Mana Moth and tie on that side. See what they want to do with their remaining mana. Carrie's Intervention's a bit of a blowout here, but at least... we can get something done. Still okay trading 1 for 1. Put the Off You Go back in your hand. Can't imagine there's no small creatures that they want to play. They're obviously incentivized to play big O's at some point. We're hoping for a Sabotage here to get rid of this Tane. We did get one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hand cost 3 or less. Not that big a deal, but it reduces their options. May have been something better to play out later. And now we've got some math to do. So the Studious Disciple is free, functionally. So this will cost 2 after the Moth to a Flame. Can't play out the Hunger now. We'll play him out on the companion side. We're going to get extra stats off of the Moth collision here. What do we put in mana? We put an Off You Go into. Funnily enough, if we'd gotten rid of the Celestial Burst instead of Off You Go, we actually would have been able to play out 2 removal spells this turn. Surprise! We still get moths. That was fun. I liked that. We should do that more often. So they can block us on the companion side, don't get their double advance with the magic slay. They just pass instead. Interesting choice. Did they know they could do that with the boost? Guess not. That's alright. I'll take it. I ain't mad. I really want to play the Celestial Blast though. So 9 mana is actually we have to Raw Dog the Lost in the Riptide because they're not in blue on either side, but we could training Lost in the Riptide Signet, get our Moth and hope that it's enough to get over the line, or we could hold on to everything. Magical Training Celestial Blast. They've only got 3 cards in hand, so we're going to hit something. I really like playing our big spells here. But that's alright, we'll be sensible. Get some pretty good info. Okay. So we would have had that exact window. What are we hoping for here? Alright, if they have another creature out, they just win. Saved by the Bell. Oh no. Bugger. The Magic Slay lets them double advance here. So they do win. Smallest margins. But that's okay. And had we kept the Celestial, we actually would have been good there. Alright. Something to think about. That's okay. We had outs. Just didn't hit them. Still, fun one. I suck at building Singleton decks. Alright, see you in the debrief. And we're done. A 1-2 record with Moyo and Silk. Finally got a win on camera in Singleton. Love that for us. And yeah, I don't mind it. I think the lack of impactful ways to draw cards hurts. Like multiple Conjuring Seals is obviously a big deal for Moyo. As well as the magical trainings just to bridge the gap. I think the big winners of today, even though the deck didn't run that well for us, and I think that's mostly pilot error, are Moth Collision and Celestial Blast. Didn't really get a chance to showcase much else, but I do still like the idea of the Sunissa in particular. So what she does is, at least 4 turns into the game, she will allow you to put a decent amount of stats onto the board, and bridges the gap up until there, so 7 mana, but didn't get a chance to show it off today. But the reasons I like Moth Collision, I think I've never really considered it as a follow-up to another 4-drop spell. So in that awkward little phase where you're at, I don't know, 6 and 7 mana, I guess, it lets you get rid of some troublesome small permanent here, for cheap. So when I was theory crafting to build the deck the way I liked it to run, I liked the idea of Lost in the Riptide as a 3 mana way to put a token into play. Obviously they get to recur the card, but if the card's not like super threatening, you kind of like that, knowing something's in their hand the following turn. But in that, again, 6 or 7 mana range, that far into the game, you can potentially play Conjuring Seal Moth to a Flame, one of your other 4-drops, to get a illusion out, and then surprise them with another one. The discard is a pretty big deal. Obviously it makes it a bit smaller, but either at the common or rare, I might be trying that one in the list, especially now that we're at least 1 to 3 slots open from Celebration Day going away. We'll talk about that card in a second, because I don't know, guess I'm happy to admit I was wrong, but I guess we'll see. Celestial Blast, also a pretty big deal. In that third game, we obviously could have won had we played a bit differently, or at least tried not to eke all the value out of it. But just getting rid of the Magic Slay might have given us a chance to get into tiebreakers, see what else we could get done. I still think Winter Nova is the king of big spells that you can be playing with this deck. Modality, and then just very powerful. 8 mana gets you 7 mana moths, so 14 points worth of stats across 1 or 2 expeditions as you see fit. And then I think if you're going to follow up with other ones, you probably wouldn't go astray with Blast Fury, or probably those two. Defect and Flutter of Moths I feel are a little bit worse than those other options. Well of Tears, big deal, like that one. Playing it at the rare version lets you look at 4-drop characters as well, some of which we had, the Bakus, the Flamels, Alchemist. So you could tie into that one as well, but you'll still get a pretty good amount of value even if you're just playing the common rarity as well. Yeah, this one went well. I like Beauty Sleep, magical trainings are obviously good. I still like the idea of playing a lot of low cost creatures and then trying to go over the top with your big spells. Power on the board is always an issue with this deck, but we will probably revisit it in Standard soon, so look forward to that one. Anyone that is interested in this hero, especially post ban cycle or suspension cycle, I suppose. Yeah, my stance is known on this card. I think the Celebration Day centric lists have been putting up some results in competition. I still maintain that it probably wasn't the best thing to be doing with this list, and if you were going to play Celebration Day, Akesha and Taru was kind of a better, more patient home for this card, but people were making it work. I think the card was banned more for gameplay feel than anything egregiously powerful, which is a little disappointing because it is a fun card to play. But we'll move on with our lives. Alright, I think that's it. Pretty much done. Nice and quick today. Had the video been longer, it probably meant we would have won some more games because this one does run slow. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Take it easy. Love your work.